There is a brand new $196 million hospital tower sitting in Oroville, California right now. And the concrete has been perfectly poured. The steel framing is completely up. The complex mechanical and electrical systems, the plumbing, it's all totally finished.
The paint is literally dry.
Right, the paint is dry. But if you walk up to the front entrance today, the doors are locked tight. There are 0 patients inside.
Wow.
And the general contractor who built the thing is staring at an unpaid invoice for $16.9 million that they will honestly likely never see.
Yeah, which is just... it's devastating.
Because right before this state-of-the-art facility was supposed to open its doors, the hospital filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
It is the ultimate operational nightmare. I mean, you put the work in place, you deliver a flawless physical asset, and the money you are rightfully owed just... it vanishes into a legal black hole.
It really does. So today, our mission for this deep dive is unpacking the brutal math of how a completed mega project goes legally bankrupt before it even opens. We're going to look at the unyielding hierarchy of who actually gets paid when a client goes under. And most importantly, we're going to explore the specific, actionable strategies that you, the listener, must use to armor your own construction or contracting business against this exact nightmare.
Because whether you are building a multi-million-dollar medical facility or, just doing routine commercial build-outs, the legal traps we are exploring today are identical.
Exactly. The zeros on your invoice might change, but the bankruptcy laws absolutely do not.
No, they don't.
Okay, let's unpack this. How does a project get this far into the physical build phase and just completely financially collapse?
So to understand the collapse, you really have to look at the genesis of the project itself, because that sets the stage for the entire risk profile.
Right.
This is the Oroville Hospital in Butte County, California. And for context, Butte County was just absolutely devastated by the 2018 Camp Fire.
Oh, yeah. That was awful.
Yeah, it was one of the deadliest and most destructive wildfires in state history. So, this community was quite literally rising from the ashes. And a new hospital tower was a massive part of that physical and really psychological rebuilding effort.
So from day one, this isn't just a standard commercial real estate play.
Not at all.
It's a project rooted in community survival. That is a massive emotional driver for everyone involved, including the contractors, right?
Precisely. It creates this sort of noble cause. And that noble cause can heavily mask severe financial overextension.
Which makes sense. You want to help.
Exactly. Now, to fund this massive rebuild, the hospital issued $196 million in municipal bonds.
Okay.
And the general contractor for the project was a joint venture Modern Buildings Hunt. They initially signed on with a guaranteed maximum price, or GMP, of $107.7 million.
But I mean, a GMP is rarely the final number on a build of this scale.
Oh, rarely. Yeah, as anyone who has run a complex build knows, scope changes and change orders are just inevitable.
Right.
So that initial $107.7 million GMP eventually ballooned up to $130.7 million.
Wow.
And the contractor kept building, right? They kept executing the change orders, and they ultimately completed the tower. But on December 8th, 2025, under case number 25-26876, the hospital filed for Chapter 11.
It's like building a custom mansion for a client, handing over the keys, and the bank immediately forecloses on it while your tools are still sitting in the driveway.
That is exactly what it's like.
But from an operational standpoint, how does a project get this far into the red without anyone pulling the plug? I mean, $16.9 million is a staggering amount of unpaid invoices to just keep pouring concrete through.
It's huge.
Why didn't they stop?
What's fascinating here is the sheer momentum of large-scale construction projects. When you have hundreds of workers on site, tower cranes operating at thousands of dollars a day, and this massive complex supply chain in full motion stopping is incredibly difficult.
And expensive, right.
Unbelievably expensive. If you halt the project, you hemorrhage daily overhead. So contractors just push forward, they trust the institution.
They figure the money will show up.
Right. They look at the fact that it's a vital community hospital backed by municipal bonds, and they think, surely the funding will catch up to the change orders.
Right. You assume a healthcare facility backed by municipal bonds is a safe bet. You assume the money is sitting in an account somewhere just waiting for the red tape to clear.
Exactly.
But when the music stops, the reality of bankruptcy law kicks in. And this brings us to the brutal math of Chapter 11.
Yeah, the math is not pretty.
Because Modern Sun didn't just lose their money. They got trapped in a highly specific, highly disadvantageous legal category. They became what is known as an unsecured creditor.
Yes. And to understand why that designation is so devastating, we have to look at the mechanics of Chapter 11 itself.
Okay, lay it out for us.
So when an entity files for Chapter 11, they're reorganizing their debts, right? They're not liquidating their assets. They're trying to keep the lights on.
Right, they still exist.
Exactly. But the absolute most critical thing that happens the exact second they file is the automatic stay.
The automatic stay. Now, this isn't just a pause button, right? It's more like a legal firewall.
That's a great way to put it.
The second it drops, all your tools for getting Lannon's lawsuits, phone calls bounce right off it. You are legally forbidden from even asking for your money.
That is exactly how it functions. The moment that bankruptcy petition is stamped by the court, you cannot collect a dime. Your claim is just locked behind that firewall.
Man.
And then you are subjected to the creditor hierarchy.
Let's break that hierarchy down, because this is where the math gets really ugly for the people actually putting the physical work in place.
So the hierarchy in bankruptcy court is incredibly rigid.
Yeah.
At the very top, you have secured creditors.
Okay.
These are usually the banks and financial institutions that hold recorded liens against the property or the assets. Next in line are priority claims. So things like unpaid administrative taxes or specific employee wages.
All right.
And then at the very bottom of the barrel, you have the general unsecured creditors. And that includes contractors, suppliers, subcontractors, vendors.
And that's where the GC ended up.
Right. In the Orville case, UMB Bank holds a blanket lead for between $195 and $208 million tied to those municipal bonds.
Wow.
Because they are a secured creditor, they get paid first. They get to absorb virtually all the asset value of the hospital.
Wait, let me stop you there, because this is the part that drives contractors insane.
I know.
The contractor literally built the physical asset. They poured the foundation, they erected the steel, they ran the miles of copper plumbing. How on earth are they at the bottom of the legal food chain behind a bank that just moved numbers around on a spreadsheet?
I know, it feels inherently unjust, right? Especially when you could physically touch the value the contractor created.
Yeah.
But this is the bedrock of corporate finance law. The difference between secured and unsecured debt is absolutely everything.
Even if you built it.
Even if you build it. The sweat equity of the builder, the literal blood, sweat, and concrete means legally nothing compared to the bank's paper.
That is so wild.
The bank secured its risk with a recorded blanket lien on the physical assets. The contractor, by simply submitting invoices and waiting for payment, essentially extended $16.9 million of unsecured credit to the hospital.
Ouch.
Yeah. Modern Sunt is owed that $16.9 million. The California Department of Healthcare Services is actually the largest unsecured creditor, owed $26.7 million.
Oh, wow.
And the harsh reality is that unsecured creditors in a Chapter 11 reorganization like this might get 5 to 10 cents on the dollar.
If they're lucky.
Exactly. Or they might get absolutely nothing.
It's terrifying. I mean, you could bankrupt your own company just trying to finish a job for a client who's already quietly going under.
Absolutely.
But this isn't totally unpredictable, is it? I mean, a project doesn't just wake up one morning and decide to be tens of millions of dollars in the hole.
No, the cracks are almost always there in the foundation before the dam breaks.
Right.
In fact, according to Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence report, these client financial distress signals can often be flagged early on.
Okay, like what?
Things like abnormal change order behavior, constantly shifting completion dates, or, and this is a big one, subtle changes in payment cycles. They usually show up in the data long before a Chapter 11 filing becomes public.
Okay, but we need to zoom out for a second to look at the macro environment, because I hear a lot about healthcare construction being this massive, booming sector.
Oh, it is.
The projections say healthcare construction is supposed to hit $30.7 billion in 2026. The conventional wisdom is that it's a recession-proof industry because, well, people always get sick and populations are aging.
Right.
But then we have Orville. So is this just a freak accident, or is there a systemic risk creeping into the wider market?
It is definitely not a freak accident.
Really?
Really. The healthcare sector as an aggregate is growing, sure.
Right.
But individual hospitals, especially rural and community hospitals, they are incredibly fragile right now.
How so?
Well, they are operating on razor-thin margins. They are dealing with aging infrastructure that forces them into expensive capital projects just to stay compliant. And they're laboring under heavy, constantly changing regulatory burdens.
Right, which all costs money.
Exactly. So they issue municipal bonds to build new facilities, basically gambling that the new modern facility will generate enough increased revenue to save them and service the debt.
That sounds incredibly risky.
It's a massive financial gamble. And when you factor in that Moody's recently predicted a 50-50 or greater chance of a macro recession, which historically spikes client bankruptcies across the board, that gamble becomes perilous.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So you're saying a booming multi-billion-dollar industry is actually a minefield for contractors if they aren't looking at the micro level.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, exactly. The paradox is that the overall societal need for healthcare is infinite, but the funding for a specific local hospital is highly finite. And according to Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report, this exact paradox is a primary risk factor. The sector overall can look incredibly strong, while individual clients within it are dangerously weak.
That makes total sense.
You have to remember, you aren't contracting with an industry, you are contracting with a single balance sheet.
Yes.
And if that single balance sheet belongs to a distressed community hospital that issued $196 million in bonds right after a natural disaster, your risk profile is astronomical.
Which brings us to the most important part of this deep dive. We've seen the trap. We know the brutal math of secured versus unsecured debt.
Right.
Now we need the armor. We need to look at how contractors can build a pre-construction shield, manage their cash flow, and maintain the situational awareness required to avoid becoming the next unsecured creditor fighting for pennies.
Let's do it.
So if I'm a contractor, my first point of failure is before I even break ground. How do I know they actually have the money to pay me?
Your first line of defense is aggressive financial vetting. Before you sign a contract, you must pull their financials, you need to check their credit history, and most importantly, demand audited financial statements. If a hospital just barely survived a natural disaster and is immediately issuing $196 million in bonds, you need to know their debt-to-equity ratio before you pour the first yard of concrete.
Wait, let me push back on that. In the real world, if I demand an audited financial statement from a massive private healthcare developer, aren't they just going to laugh me out of the room and hire the next guy who doesn't ask? I mean, I'll lose the bid.
That is the exact fear that keeps contractors unsecured.
Huh.
But you have to reframe your thinking.
Okay, how?
Are you bidding to win work, or are you bidding to get paid?
Ooh, that's a good point.
Because as we established, you are effectively acting as a massive lender to this client. You're extending millions in credit. No bank would lend a developer $15 million without seeing audited financials.
Right.
So why should you supply $15 million worth of labor and materials without the same assurance?
That is such a vital perspective shift.
It is. And if the project is private work, this is also where you demand a payment bond from the owner.
A payment bond, what does that do exactly?
This is a surety bond that guarantees you will be paid if the owner defaults. It shifts the risk from your balance sheet to a surety company.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and if the owner refuses to provide one or simply can't qualify for one, that tells you absolutely everything you need to know about their financial health.
Right, that's a massive red flag. Okay, so that's the pre-construction shield. But moving from pre-con to the actual build, what about securing our right to get paid once the work actually starts?
That requires executing early mechanics loops. You must file your preliminary notices on day one of the project.
Day one.
Day one. A perfectly executed mechanics loan is what elevates you from that vulnerable unsecured status to a secured status, giving you a legal claim against the property itself.
But doesn't filing a preliminary loan on the very first day look, well, kind of hostile? It feels like starting a relationship by threatening a lawsuit.
It only feels hostile if it's not your standard operating procedure.
Okay.
If you build it into your onboarding process and literally just explain to the client, hey, this is just an administrative requirement, our legal team mandates on every single project, regardless of the client, it completely takes the emotion out of it.
Right. Make it about the process, not the person.
Exactly. Now, a crucial caveat here. Public land complicates things immensely.
Yeah, you can't lien a courthouse.
Right. You generally cannot foreclose on public property like a municipal building, so the rules are different and often require claims against payment bonds instead. But on private jobs, that early liening filing is your absolute non-negotiable shield.
Makes total sense. Okay, let's talk about cash flow control during the build. We usually see net 60 or net 90 payment terms on these massive projects.
And you have to shorten those terms aggressively. Push for net 30. Do not accept net 60 or net 90.
Because it just extends your exposure.
Exactly. The logic here is simple mathematics. The less money you are owed at any given moment, the less money you lose if the music stops.
And that ties directly into how frequently we bill, right? I call this the 2-week leash. You never want to let your client hold more than 2 weeks of your payroll hostage.
I love that. The 2-week leash concept is brilliant. Move to weekly or bi-weekly billing whenever possible. Think about the Oroville project. If you are doing monthly billing on a $130 million project, you could easily have $5, $10, or $15 million of work in place before you even send the invoice.
Yeah, and then you're waiting.
And then you wait another 30 to 60 days to get paid on that invoice. That is an unacceptable amount of exposure.
But the administrative burden of bi-weekly billing on a mega project is huge. I mean, you're talking about doubling the workload for the accounting department.
It is a massive administrative burden, absolutely. But let me ask you this. Is the cost of hiring an extra administrative assistant to process bi-weekly invoices more expensive than writing off a $16.9 million loss in bankruptcy court?
Wow. Yeah, when you put it like that,
The administrative friction is the price you pay for financial security.
that puts it perfectly in perspective. Now, what about retainage? Contractors are universally used to dealing with 5 or 10% retainage being held back.
Right.
But in a Chapter 11 scenario, that standard industry practice turns into a total hostage situation. That 10% is usually your entire profit margin locked in an escrow account you can no longer touch.
Exactly. If the client is in distress, that retainage is trapped behind the automatic stay we talked about earlier.
So how do we fix that?
You need to push for milestone-based retainage releases in your initial contract. Do not let millions of dollars sit in the owner's bank account until the very end of a multi-year build.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, as you finish the foundation, get the retainage for the foundation released. As you finish the framing, get that release. You have to fight to unlock that cash incrementally.
Okay, so we've vetted them, we've secured our lien rights, and we've tightened our cash flow. The final piece is situational awareness. What do the cracks actually look like before the dam breaks? Because clients don't usually send an email saying, hey, we're going bankrupt next week.
No, they hide it as long as possible. So you have to watch for the subtle warning signs.
Like delayed payments.
That's the most obvious one, yeah. Accompanied by the classic, the check is in the mail, excuses. But you have to look deeper.
Okay.
Watch for suddenly changed payment contacts. Like, if the person approving your invoices gets fired or leaves unexpectedly, that's a massive red flag.
Oh, interesting.
Watch for leadership turnover in the C-suite, like a sudden change in the hospital's CFO. If you see these signs, you cannot afford to give them the benefit of the doubt based on a past relationship.
Right.
You have to accelerate your collections immediately. And frankly, this is where having access to good market data is critical. Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report emphasizes the importance of tracking client payment patterns and utilizing contract intelligence to flag these exact anomalies before it's too late.
So what does this all mean for the person listening right now? If they look at these defensive strategies, vetting finances like a lender, demanding payment bonds, filing day one preliminary liens, enforcing the 2-week leash on billing, negotiating milestone retainage, and maintaining situational awareness, what is the core philosophy tying all of this together?
The core philosophy is that your operational speed in billing and legal filing must match the speed of your construction work.
Oh, it's good.
Contractors are incredibly fast, innovative, and efficient at building complex physical structures. They need to be equally fast and efficient at securing their legal right to get paid for those structures.
Right.
If you pour concrete faster than you file your preliminary notices, you are putting your entire company at risk. You have to treat your paper with the same urgency you treat your physical schedule.
That is a phenomenal way to frame it. Let's recap what we've covered today.
Sure.
We looked at the tragic collapse of the Oroville Hospital Tower project, a $196 million dream meant to rebuild a fire-ravaged community that ultimately ended with locked doors, 0 patients, and a Chapter 11 filing.
Yeah.
We saw how a contractor can do absolutely everything right in the field, finishing a massive, incredibly complex build, and still end up as a general unsecured creditor owed $16.9 million, standing at the back of the line behind a bank's $208 million blanket lever.
Exactly.
And we walked through the comprehensive armor you need to wear, from pre-construction to final completion, to prevent this exact nightmare from destroying your business.
And if there's one lingering thought I want to leave you with, it's this.
Go for it.
If vital public infrastructure like our community hospitals relies heavily on complex municipal bonds and blanket bank liens just to exist, are construction companies unwittingly being forced to act as venture capitalists, absorbing the ultimate financial risks of entire cities?
Wow.
Because when a community's ambition outpaces its balance sheet, the bank is protected by its paper, and it's the builder who is left holding the empty bag.
That is a chilling thought, and what every business owner needs to deeply consider before they sign their next major contract.
Absolutely.
So here's what you need to do right now. Pull the financial statements of your top 3 clients today. If any of them show declining cash reserves or increasing debt loads, you need to have a very candid conversation immediately. Audit your own processes and make sure you are filing those preliminary lease notices on every single active job you have. If you know a contractor who is dealing with client financial instability or massive change orders right now, send them this deep dive.
Yes, please do.
It could save them millions. Hit follow on whatever app you're listening on so you don't miss tomorrow's intel. And to learn more about the tools protecting the industry, visit smartbusinessautomator.com.